Welcome to qnawire.
Uh, Welcome to a new problem. So this time we have a man and his son. So they're doing what we call chin-ups. Okay, lifting their bodies up all the way up from the ground. So they're going up and down, and then obviously his son has shorter hands, maybe half his hands. And so what's happening here is that they have to lift themselves. The man has to lift himself a distance of 0.40 meters. And so we want to find out, how much work is done in, how much work is done per kilogram in lifting himself up. And you can remember that the man has a weight. So if he lifts himself up from this position up until that position, the work done is going to be mgh. But we're interested in finding out, the work per kilogram. So how much work is done per kilogram? Okay, so work over mass. And that just means that you'll have to divide both sides by m. These two cancel out. So the work over the mass, which is the work per kilogram, is GH. G is 9.8 meters per second squared, and then the height is lifting himself is 0.40 meters. And it means that the man needs 3.92 joules per kilogram to lift himself up a distance of 0.40 meters. In terms of percentages, assume that the man is using up, his muscles are using up 70 joules of work per kilogram of his muscles. Remember, he's using his muscles to lift himself up. So this is 70 joules of work per kilogram. And you want to compare this to how much work he's doing per kilogram. So we want to see what's this is part B. Part A, this was the answer to part A. The answer to part B is that the muscles are involved in the chin-up. So the muscles are using 70 joules per kilogram, and that barely lifts him up a distance of 0.40 meters. So what percentage of his body's mass do these muscles constitute? So we're going to take this percentage, 3.92 joules per kilogram, and that's the work done by the man per kilogram of body mass, and then compare that to the work done by the muscles, 70 joules per kilogram. And if you simplify that, it's going to help us get the percentage of muscles, which happen to be 5.6%. If you simplify that problem, we haven't talked about his son. We're seeing that there's certain muscles involved in generating about 70 joules of work per kilogram. And so, what's percentage of the body's weight constitute these muscles? For his son, I'm going to do that in the second page. We have that. His hands are short compared to his father. So this is the son. And that means he's going to lift himself half the distance, which happens to be 0.20 meters. So the work per kilogram that he does is still going to be mgh, because remember, actually the work per kilogram, the work itself is mgh, the work he's doing to lift himself up, because he's working against his weight. And to get the work per kilogram, we have to divide by the mass. So his mass happens to be, um, so we don't know what his mass is, but the acceleration due to gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared, and then multiply by the height that is moving, which is 0.2 meters. Remember, these two cancel out, and that gives us 2.8%, which is pretty much not 2.8%. This one gives us 1.96 joules per kilogram. And if you compare that to the amount of energy expended by his dad per kilogram, it's almost half of that. So 1.96 joules per kilogram. His muscles expand, so his muscles, the sun's muscles, expand 70, or rather 70 joules per kilogram. So his muscles expend 70 joules per kilogram. And if you compare that to the amount of work he does per kilogram on his body mass, it's going to be 1.96 joules per kilogram over 70 joules per kilogram. Excuse me, and that gives us 2.8% in terms of his muscle percentage. Okay, so this is the body mass, or percentage of his body mass for his muscles. So his muscles constitute 2.8%. If we go back, his dad's muscles constitute 5.6%. And the other question they're asking is, if you compare the dad and the son, so who's gonna use more joules per kilogram? So the son is only using 1.96 joules per kilogram to lift himself up. So the son uses 1.96 joules per kilogram, which is less than the father's 3.92 joules per kilogram. Therefore, we can conclude, based on logic, that it's easier for the son to lift himself on chin-ups than the father. Okay, so this is the last part of the problem. Thanks again for watching the videos. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to ask questions. And this is a follow-up of energy, a son and a father comparing themselves, lifting themselves up. The muscles are involved, so we want to find out what's the energy per kilogram, or energy per unit mass of body mass expended. So 3.92 joules for the father, and for the son it's 1.96 joules per kilogram. The father 3.92 joules per kilogram. And if you compare the son and the father, you can see that the son can, why is it that children can do more chin-ups than adults? And you can see that's the reason why. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks, and see you next time. Okay, bye.